they're like, Dave, there's a lot of toxicity in this industry. The average age of retirement, as we all know, is 25 years old in esports. Like, it's crazy because of the mental toll. And I'm not saying it to scare the kids or the youth that want to be esports. It's a reality you have to deal with. Okay. But the number one thing is self-awareness and just doing what you do because you want to do it, not because you feel like you have to do it. So just I always tell the kids, don't focus on the grand prize, don't focus on the cash you can win. I'm like, because if that's the only reason why you're going to do it, it's going to be a miserable experience for you. I'm like, you have to
Sorry.
love it, you have to have the passion for it.
So I want to bring up because you're an esports mentor, right? So you
Another episode of the Speak Real podcast, sharing one-on-one conversations. We believe that storytelling is the best way to empower youth and give them the platform to find their voices.
Presented by YouthSpeak. Youth experience, youth voice, youth empowered.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode here of the Speak Real podcast that's brought to you by YouthSpeak Canada Charities. We're all about that right here. We would love to bring awareness to a bunch of topics, and today's going to be, this is why I wore this hat today, because today we're going to be having a special guest, a fellow nerd, a fellow gamer, and we're going to be diving into a lot of topics when it comes to esports, gaming in general, and just the mental health of these esports athletes. And we'll be getting into that with a specialist who is a coach for a lot of teams, and I'll let him introduce himself. But before we go ahead here and allow for Dave Boddy to come in, I'd like to give one big shout out there to TD Bank that sponsors us on all of our content here for our IG lives and our podcast. Without further ado, let's get Dave Boddy in here. How
Not
are you?
much, Boddy. Yourself? I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I got my little special Snorlax hat here today for our little gamer session.
Nice.
As everybody knows here, a big gamer fan myself, and we have an esports athlete. Ooh, bit of a spoiler, but we'll get into that at a later point. But at least one. I know we've done this already for IG Live, but I was hoping that you can go ahead once again and introduce yourself and speak a bit about yourself and what you do.
Totally. So I do esports on the side as a hobby. It's something I've grown attached to for the last probably about 6 months to a year during COVID, when gaming was at its like greatest peak ever, where everyone was gaming. And I've always been someone who's competitive, former football player, well, not so much former now. I'm actually back to coaching football now with NFL Flag here in Calgary. So I'm very excited to be back with that because I love football. So that's really exciting. So when I do focus on gaming at a competitive level, it's usually Madden. I'm a huge fan of Madden. I've been playing Madden since 1999. Yes, I'm that old. So like back on the PlayStation 1 days, and before we had all this cool technology that the kids nowadays take for granted. Like, oh man, gaming has always been that like outlet for me of therapy and just feeling as if I belong somewhere. Because growing up as a gamer, a lot of people may know this, that you are often laughed upon or mocked or made fun of or told to go touch grass. However, the truth of the matter is we all have a little bit of a gamer inside of us. Let's be honest. We all love those moments we can sit down and just distract ourselves from the real world for a bit. But yeah, my story is really long, so I'll try to keep it very brief. I'm also now a Concussion Legacy Foundation champion. I'm a champion with Unsinkable organization here in Canada. I'm a mental health advocate. Been doing that since 2012. Former youth mentor from 2012 to 2021. Former security professional of 8 years. Former pro wrestler of a year. I've taken quite a journey. Been diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, misophonia, anxiety, 15 concussions. So I'm very passionate in regards to mental health awareness and coaching and mentoring. So I'm very excited for NFL Flag Calgary. Our season starts in September of this year, sorry. So I'm very hyped. And we have Madden 23 coming out next month on August 19th. So I'm pretty hyped for that as well.
Yeah, you got an awesome year lined up for you, eh? Oh my goodness.
Totally. Lots of content to come.
I want to touch upon the fact that I think nowadays gamers are quite lucky that they may not get as laughed at or bullied as back in our day, because
100%.
yes, yeah, you had to be a closet gamer pretty much. You'd have to kind of hide that. If you play like, I don't know, the latest Zelda game, you can't talk about it at school openly. You know, you get bullied and stuff like that. You know, SOCOM seals and all that. You couldn't talk about it. Nowadays, you know, jocks play Call of Duty. Like, you're not cool if you're not playing Call of Duty. So it's quite a difference from, you know, the cohorts and generations and what they've had to experience. So it's great. I mean, hearing your adventures, my God, you touched upon a lot of like the awesome nerd stuff that we're not allowed to talk about. Wrestling, oh, you're not allowed to enjoy that. You know what I mean? Like at least at a certain age, like past a certain age. Like I would say, I feel like after high school you're not allowed to look at it again. But I mean, there's, you could appreciate wrestling. Like I love to go watch wrestling. Like it's so energetic. It's a lot of athleticism involved. I mean, it's not like it's yes, okay, it's fake per se, but it those bumps are real. Those impacts are real. That it's you know, quite a lot of stuff. So yeah, I love that you touched upon that as well. So yeah, you are definitely you're definitely an adventurer for sure. So
Yes.
we'll go ahead and start with the first question here. Some of these we have already talked upon our IG live. So if you know, for those who are interested, you can always check out a more condensed version of what we're going to do on the Instagram on YouthSpeak. Make sure to also follow Boddy as well. But yeah, so why don't you tell us a bit about your struggle with mental health?
Oh my goodness. It's been forever. I'm 36 years old. My first real confrontation with the reality of, okay, I do have mental illness was when I was diagnosed with ADHD in 1997. However, back then it was simply known as ADD.
Mhm.
However, with, you know, due to current research, they've now realized that ADD is confusing as a diagnosis. So now they've separated ADHD into three categories, which are inattentive, hyperactive, and combined. So I was re-diagnosed in 2011 with combined ADHD, which means I deal with hyperactive symptoms as well as inattentive, which is so ironic because one of the most common misconceptions with ADHD is we can't focus, but let me tell you, we can. If we are passionate about something, or if, you know, it's called hyperfocus for a reason. We become so hyperfixated and so passionate to the point where it can be borderline annoying for neurotypical people, where it's like, if you try to talk to me about a subject like, let's say, math or taxes, no, I tap right out, and I'm very blunt about it. Like, I'm very like, yo, I'm sorry, I have no interest in this. That was my first real encounter. However, my first concussion was when I was around 4 or 5 years old, and it was pretty bad that I actually popped some blood vessels in the right side of my head. I didn't realize how pivotal concussions would become part of my life, but from the ages of 5 until 25, I would sustain 15 concussions, hundreds of hits to the head with playing football. So that's why I'm so passionate about concussion awareness with Concussion Legacy Foundation. I've also in 2020 pledged my brain for research with CLF. I do a lot of work with mental health, and the reason for that is when I eventually started to learn about it. The truth is, when I was diagnosed with ADHD, it was terrible. There was no game plan. There was no like, all right, now you have ADHD, deal, you know, you can cope with this. There's, yeah, you have it, and that was it. There wasn't as much information out there in regards to ADHD as there is now. So I'm so proud of the progress we've made in regards to research and the science. Same thing with concussions. Majority of my concussions could have been prevented. However, there was not much awareness about concussions. So I was given the standard game plan of go home, take some Tylenol, Advil, and relax. Even though I
Yes,
was dealing with
yes,
some,
folks, you heard that. That's how it used to be dealt with. It's not
yeah,
as much as it was now. It's literally
it's
go home and rest for 4 days, come back, you could play again.
it was terrible, especially with second impact syndrome being a thing right now, where, and I played dangerously with that. There was two concussions I had that I sustained within minutes from each other. So very risky, very dangerous. Um, and I'm so proud of the progress we've made with science and research. And I just make it my point to share it every single day on all my social media, because that's the thing with science. It's always changing. There's always new research. There's always new data. And I just think it's very important to do that. So I do a lot of mental health work with my gaming. I don't really necessarily stream gaming that much no more, because I've learned with self-awareness that when I'm gaming, it's like it's my relaxation time. And when you're streaming and gaming, I find it very challenging to relax and enjoy the gaming experience. So I don't really necessarily stream games. I do though. I am a full-time podcaster with a podcast called Be a Pro Journey, where I invite current and former NFL, NHL, XFL, and NHL professional athletes to share their journeys. Speaking of which, actually, it's funny we mentioned it because my good buddy Amon Green, who's a Green Bay Packers Hall of Famer, was just on my podcast last week. He's actually an instructor now with esports. He's
That
retired
is
from
so
football.
cool.
He's always loved gaming, and he's like, to retire from NFL, and now I'm healthy, and he's an instructor, a director, as well as a competitor for esports. So there's a lot of NFL players who are actually retiring or have retired to go into esports, and because
Reminds
it's
me
so
of
competitive.
what's it? Oh my God, what's his name? Something. Oh my God, he was a running back. Like he'd play Pokemon. He was known to be at home in his hotel, play Pokemon while
I
do
know who
you
exactly you're talking about, but
oh my
the
I
name is
know,
not
I
there.
know, me too. But yeah, like you'd be surprised, right? Like hey, they're human beings too. It's not just like they wake up and that's it, they're a football player. I mean, of course, football's gonna be a big part of their identity, as many of us, if we participate in anything, that's gonna be a big part of our identity. But hey, they have other stuff they like to do too. So it shouldn't be that big of a surprise for many people when athletes want to step into the gaming realm. I mean, we saw even like actors. Remember, like Snoop Dogg was all up on Battlefront 5 or
He's
so,
part of
and
FaZe Clan now.
yes, like it's just insane. So it's great to see how gaming is opened up. But what about like like for your mental health? Did you feel like that was it detrimental to your experience for gaming? I love that you brought up streaming because, to be honest, that's actually kind of a facet of mental health in gaming. I'll give a reason. Like, I'll give an example. Like, you're talking about how you can't really sit back and enjoy. No, you cannot. You have to be engaging the whole time you're playing the game. So you cannot sit back and just enjoy the adventure and the experience that's being given to you. Let's say if we're playing like a single player game, right? Because you need to make sure that the chat is talking to you, that you're being engaging enough for the chat. So you always have this like back of a mind thing, having to always focus on being an entertainer as opposed to just being a gamer. And then you start to fall into this loophole, not a loophole, sorry, but like this vicious cycle of I need this many people to watch me. I need this many subscribers. I need this many views, et cetera, right? I need this much engagement. And then when you end that stream and you look at your numbers, you're disappointed. What do you think that's going to end up doing, right? Now we're starting to maybe fall into some depression, right? If you feel this sense of failure every single day, it's going to lead to that, right? So yeah, it just becomes that, like, that's one example I could give about how mental health ties in with gaming. What's something for your specific scenario that you feel like it might have impacted it, or positively too?
Well, negatively, definitely. I found that I had increased anxiety when I was streaming. I would always be self-conscious about how my technology is working. Is everything good? Am I going to be kicked out pretty soon? Is my internet going to lag out? Trolls in the comment sections can come in and completely take over the vibes of the community and the chat. There's just I always found that when I was streaming, and I was a big streamer for about 8-9 months. I was a feature streamer for Marvel's Avengers with Crystal Dynamics. Like I was hard into it, but I had to step back and be like, okay, the most important part of any journey that you are on is self-awareness and just being honest with yourself and being like, why am I doing this? Am I doing it for clout? Am I doing it for a sense of just I need to belong somewhere? Like you have to ask yourself, why am I streaming? And when I did that, I was like, you know what? I'm doing it for the wrong reason. I'm doing it to try to build attention. I'm doing it to try to fit in with the successful streamers. And I was like, you know what? I ain't about that. Like, that's not who I am no more. I'm 36. I don't have the time to just be like, when I'm gaming, like I said, that's therapy for me. Like I love to put on Spotify and just play games and chill and relax. I don't want to have that feeling of pressure of, pay attention to the view count, paying attention to the technology, the bit rate, the internet bandwidth. There's so much, and I'm not saying that streaming is bad. I'm saying it was bad for me. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't aligned with me. I tried it for about a year. So I think the most important advice I can give to anyone that wants to be a streamer is just please have self-awareness. If you start to feel as if you're doing something for clout, or you're trying to get some, confidence manifestation where you feel like you're getting attention. One thing I tell youth all the time that I'm mentoring and coaching is never do something to build confidence, because it's going to be so difficult. That's your main intent of doing it, where it's like, hey, I'm lacking in confidence. I'm going to go stream, because what's going to happen is you're going to put so much pressure on yourself to increase your confidence that it's going to be counterproductive. You're going to become so much more created anxiety, and like it was so bad. Being with someone who's neurodivergent, there's a thing called body dysmorphia, where sometimes I don't like how I look on camera. I'm just like, you know what? I'm very self-conscious. I don't want to do that. So that's why I became a streamer without a camera. It was so much anxiety. But if it's what you want to do, and you want to do it for the right reasons, because you love the community building, like there's so much positivity with streaming once you have the self-awareness in check, once you're doing it for the right reasons. But as long as you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're not being honest with yourself, that's where it becomes very toxic. And that's where I speak from experience. I became that toxic streamer in the sense of I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it to try to fit in, but I've learned through my 36 years that you don't want to be where you need to fit in. You want to be where you feel like you belong. And that's why with NFL flag and Madden community, it's like, I don't feel like I need to fit in no more. I belong there. That's what I love. I've always loved sports. I can't play them physically no more. And that's why I connect so well with gamers who are competitive in EA Sports, because majority of them, they can't play sports no more due to injuries or lack of confidence or mental health. And they are allowed to be who they are in esports. And that's why esports is so inclusive. And I will always defend it when people say, oh, they're not real athletes and they're not real this, they're like, okay, so let me tell you this. When you go backstage, if you ever are able to go backstage to the WWE, you know what you're going to see backstage at the Xavier Woods and a whole bunch of pro wrestlers like AJ Styles, Adam Cole, all playing games. They all play games. They all stream on Twitch because they see it as this is fun. It's enjoyment. So, not everyone is in esports for competitiveness. Not everyone's in esports because they want to win a championship. They just want to feel that they belong somewhere again. Maybe they've lost the sport like me. Like I can't do professional wrestling no more. I can't play football no more. And it sucks. And there's days where I do struggle with that, where I do miss it. But then, now that I'm coaching it again with NFL flag and I'm playing Madden, I kind of feel as if I'm still allowed to be in that mindset of like, I'm competing again.
Yeah, I just want to definitely
sorry.
Just want to interject here for a bit because I just chime in.
I can talk a long time, so I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, I understand. No, so like I really love how you brought up your experiences with, we're talking about like you can't physically compete at least at a level you want to, football or pro wrestling, right? So then you go into esports because you can still you still have that competitive drive and you still need a channel for it. And gaming is a good way to do so because, at least physically, all you need is like, a chair. Maybe not even, you can lay on the floor, right? You need a controller, your hands, as long as it can work. And even then, there's hitbox and all those other kind of stuff that's coming up too. So it just brings up the fact that gaming allows for people to still compete, even if they can't go and dunk basketball or run, catch a football as fast as they can. Like it's at least allows you to still do so through games like Madden, 2K and all those kind of things. So it's beautiful to see. And I think that quarantine, because you brought it up earlier, kind of opened up that discussion. We were kind of stuck at home. What else could you do? So there's online gamings, Animal Crossing. That was such a big game because you can make a community with your friends who all had a Switch or, esports to compete. So I also personally can relate to that. Of course, it's not like I can join some I don't know, whatever I used to do, track and field, boxing, anything. Of course, there's age demographics, but it's just not as easy the older you get. So at least with esports, you could compete. But definitely, I want to ask about esports specifically. You as an esports athlete, because we'll touch upon this one next. Did you ever get into esports yourself?
Would I ever get into it?
Or did you ever, or will you get into it?
It's kind of hit or miss. It all depends. for example, I've played in the last month, I believe, 7 competitive matches on Madden. And of the 7, I've had 2 good experiences. Now,
Let's
that's not because I
go.
lost, it's because of toxic gamers.
Yeah.
When I'm playing someone competitively, I understand the trash talk. I get it, the banter. However, when they're dropping profanities and they're dropping N words and they're dropping all these just toxic language as a player, it makes you go, you know what? Like, is this really worth my mental health? So I have moments where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go play. So my one thing is that a lot of esports teams and organizations don't ever talk about is how influential the community and how influential the experience is gaming with other people. If a professional esports athlete plays against a very toxic gamer, it could damage their mindset in the sense of like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to spend time? And like, I can handle it. Like, I'm a former security professional. Okay, I've done dozens upon dozens of arrests. I can handle trash talking. But my main concern was, what if my son was playing, who's only 14, or if my daughter, who's only 11, and she had this experience? Like, how would that affect her mentally? Where she's just trying to have fun, play a game, but she's being trash talked and talked down to, and that to me is a huge, I find a lot of people who pursue esports will experience that a lot on their journey. And it's really testing. It's really testing because you question, like, am I really enjoying this? Because like, of the 7 games I played, 2 of them I actually really enjoyed. The other 5 were just miserable experiences. And I remember I tweeted about it saying, like, if you're gaming as a way to gain confidence by trash talking and belittling other gamers, like, there's an internal conflict that you have to address, because that to me is not normal behavior. Like, normal trash talking is like, oh, you could have caught that, whatever. But when you're dropping like swears and name callings and just other very inappropriate vocabulary, it's like, wow. So that's something I love to speak about in regards to podcasting or appearances I do, is the reality of toxicity in gaming and how competitive nature comes in, and it makes people so toxic because they're trying to get that leverage over you. They're trying to mentally beat you down. And then I always ask them, like, I remember the one guy I was playing, I was like, buddy, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you acting like this? And he's like, oh, you know what, you just suck at this game, you're terrible. I'm like, so be it. I'm like, maybe I am. I'm like, did you get like, I'm like, you need to like self-reflect here. And then he muted me because I'm just like, when I call someone out, I don't do it in a sense of I want to be a hypocrite and belittle them. It's like, listen, man, I want you to be, have some awareness here to what you're doing, how you're acting. And it's just, so I want to get in esports, but at the same time, there's times where I have those gaming experiences where I'm just like, do I really want to invest more time in this kind of experience, knowing that majority of the people who I'm playing are not really professional level. They're just trying to get there. Whew. So 5 of the 7 games were not fun. And that was damaging, where I was like, maybe my time is best spent elsewhere. And maybe it's best I just play Madden at a very casual level until we're able to figure out a way to make this experience more fun. Because when you turn on Madden Sports, or I believe NHL also has it too with EA Sports, there's a positiveness where it says a positive gaming, and it gives you a warning of how to interact online. And they actually give you these features. Like, for example, the 2 players I did play, I had a great time with. You're able to accommodate them, or not accommodate. You're able to give them accommodations, like they played very well, they were helpful, they were friendly. So I do that, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And but I feel like there should be an incentive to get that. So like, let's say I play with someone and I say, you know what, I'm going to give them accommodation that they were very helpful. Maybe they get some in-game currency for it, like 200 coins. Something that gives them that incentive to be like, you know what, I want to earn this good player recognition, not only because it feels good, but it gives me something to do in the game. Like, for example, Grand Theft Auto
An
5
achievement.
online. Yeah, an achievement.
Achievement
Grand Theft
too.
Auto. Grand Theft Auto 5 has a thing called the Good Sport where they'll pay you $2,000 in-game currency. I've already made almost $30,000 in that already. And I'm like, that's
Damn.
bragging rights for me. I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
my
I'm not
goodness.
doing it to make the money. Obviously, the money's a bonus. But that's
Yeah.
what I think that games need to start doing, because right now esports it has two crowds. It has the crowds of like, I'm supportive of it. It's amazing. I'm winning money. I'm doing great. But then there's the other side where it's like, yeah, but with how much times you're winning money in championships compared to how many times you're dealing with negative, toxic gamers, that's the more common occurrence people are going to have on their esports journey is until they get, even if you get hired to an esports organization, you're probably going to be faced with more toxicity then, with
Just about to
more
bring that up.
jealousy. Yeah, so it's like it all depends who you are as a person, and it's all about self-awareness, man. Like I've learned from the last
I'm sorry.
so like it all like I said previously, it's about self-awareness. And the last couple months I've been doing a lot of soul searching and being like, you know what? I would love to be able to win the Madden championship, because the winner last year, Henry, took home over $400,000. So like the cash prize is
Did I
pretty
hear
good.
400,000?
400,000.
Oh
Like,
my goodness. I
if
thought
you go
I
on
thought I heard
the
for 4,000, but I'm like 400,000.
if you go on Madden 22 and you go into the Madden Ultimate Team mode and you go to the far right where it says competition, it tells you the top 3 players and how much they've earned. So that is great incentive. Be like, oh yeah, I can make money. But the truth is that I tell kids all the time, is I always tell them, like, there's dreaming and then there's reality. The reality is to get to that level of earning $400,000 and earning the Madden Championship is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult. The competition is fierce. People you play against online are going to do whatever they can to break you down mentally, to affect your gameplay. And I had to spend time being like, you know what? I'm now sponsored by TELUS here in Canada in regards to their esport affiliate program. And I've talked to the team. I said, listen, like, I was pursuing esports as a profession. However, with my current situation with my mental health in regards to my ADHD, the fact that I'm going on disability right now due to my right shoulder, I'm like, there's a lot of personal stuff in my life right now that's taking priority. My podcast, for example, is doing very well. And then I started coaching NFL flag in September. So I was like, how else can you guys support me? And they're like, we love your podcast. I was like, cool. So I'll focus on that. So it's a good thing, because I have a lot of friends in esports. I have a lot of doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists and physiotherapists who work with Cloud9, Face Clan, TSM, who I talk to, and I'm reading their stuff, and they even tell me, they're like, Dave, there's a lot of toxicity in this industry. The average age of retirement, as we all know, is 25 years old in esports. Like, it's crazy because of the mental toll. And I'm not saying it to scare the kids or the youth that want to be esports. It's a reality you have to deal with. It's like, okay. But the number one thing is self-awareness and just doing what you do because you want to do it, not because you feel like you have to do it. So I always tell the kids, don't focus on the grand prize. Don't focus on the cash you can win. I'm like, because if that's the only reason why you're going to do it, it's going to be a miserable experience for you. I'm like, you have to love it. You have to have the passion for it.
So I want to bring up, because you're an esports mentor, right? So you definitely, we're touching upon the subject that's next, right? So we're going to dive into the topic about the biggest factors for esports athletes suffering debilitating mental health. And we just touched upon a big one. Toxicity, right? Huge. And then not even just the community being toxic, but it's also our inner self-talk. Disgusting as well sometimes, right? Because we put our value within our game. If you miss that throw, your teammate tells you suck, and you keep hearing that over and over, what do you think you're going to tell yourself later at night? Yeah, I do suck. Yeah, I'm pretty bad at this. So what am I doing? Inner self-talk, right? And then you start to get this bad combination of, you have toxicity of teammates or opponents versus your negative self-talk, and it just contributes to one another. And before you know it, you're becoming that person that's going ahead here yelling to everybody else, saying bad things, etc., etc. And it's just one of those things where, you mentioned about 25. There's so many things. They have to deal with toxicity since they're like maybe 14, who knows, right? Because I feel like I played around that time, I think, for competitively, about 14, yeah. And then you have the deal with yourself, and then, you know, if you're older than 25 playing games, people are going to frown upon you. Oh, why aren't you a grown up?
Yep.
What are you doing? Right? The blah, 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 blah. Like wasting your time. Where's your house? All that kind of stuff. What else is there? There's so much. You take it away. What are some other factors?
That make esports difficult?
You know what's another one I just recalled? What about, I think we touched upon this in IG Live. What about physical health as well? People may not be
100%.
taking care of themselves. Yeah, that's another thing too. If you're not fueling your body properly and you're only taking in energy drinks and playing games, what fuel does your body have to keep going? And then it's like imagine yourself, lack of sleep, going into your job and you have customer service. You're not going to want to see people, but you're supposed to see people. It's the same thing for games. You're not going to be able to play at a high level if you're not taking care of yourself properly. So I'm just wondering, have you seen any of these factors amongst the children you've entered?
Today, 100%. I see it every day. The first thing I say is I don't necessarily believe it's a kid's fault, because most of the professionals, Ninja, Tim the Tatman, and a whole bunch of them, the one thing that they constantly are sharing is play more, train harder. And I'm like, no, that is the worst piece of advice. And everyone's like, why? I'm like, do you see Tom Brady going onto the football field for 17 hours a day throwing the football? No. He does other things that make him an elite athlete. He hired a mental coach to help him with mental rehearsal, meditation. There's more than just playing the game. There's a lot more that goes into it. There's an amazing app that's available right now for download called Fit Gamer, FITGMR. And what they do is they've created an app that helps you keep track and hold yourself accountable for your daily routines, such as meditation, physical exercise, reading, nutrition. It's a great app that helps you understand that there's more than gameplay training. My son was a huge prodigy in Fortnite. That was his dream. That was his goal. But now he's into physical sports like football and soccer. Like he's transforming and evolving, which is fantastic. But when he was pursuing that world championship with Fortnite, he's like, oh yeah, Dad, I gotta play for 17 hours a day. I'm like, no, first of all, as your father, I'm not gonna allow that to be your mindset, because that's so destructive. Because it doesn't matter what level of athlete you are a human first. You need rest. Now, another thing I see being pushed a lot in industry is energy drinks. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a collection of Rogue Energy. I love Rogue Energy. I'm now using a Canadian brand that's, well, I guess it's not really Canadian. It's North American now, called Mix Energy. It's available on Amazon, so it's cheaper, faster shipping and receiving. I love my energy drinks. However, I have a rule, and that rule is the whole day to when I'm playing, I'm drinking water. I go for a 40-minute walk. I coach my son outside. I do my house chores. I do laundry, whatever I need to do. And then when it comes game time, I have my one serving of energy drink. And then most importantly, I try to figure out a snack that will last me a long time, because that's the thing, when you're gaming, you're not paying attention to your portion control, because you're just like, I'm eating, I'm hungry, I'm eating, I'm hungry. And then before you know it, you've ate a whole bag of chips. And you're like, oh my God, chips are not filling. I'm still hungry. I need more. So I'm going to do Uber. I'm going to do skip the dishes. And before you know it, you've now created a habit of eating very unhealthy. So my favorite snack of choice is cereal, dry cereal. May it be Honey Nut Cheerios, may it be Frosted Flakes, because I can eat a whole bowl. I'm sorry, I can pour a whole bowl with no milk because I hate milk, but I can pour a whole bowl and that will last me for 3 to 4 hours. And I'm
That's
not
awesome.
binge eating. I'm not
stealing that from you, man.
It's a genius mental trick where you just like, because think about it, whenever you're at a loading screen, I'm hungry. Because you're sitting there, you're like, what should I do? And that's another thing I tell people all the time that my good friend Dr. Who and Dr. Respawn, Jordan Sai taught me is loading screens are the best opportunity for stretching, to go for a walk, to do something, to take a break. So whenever I have a loading screen, instead of reaching for that bowl of snacks, I stretch my wrists, I stretch my neck, I do shoulder stretches. You can find all these great stretches on TikTok, by the way. Like there's so many great physiotherapists in the gaming industry that share this information that's so valuable. But yeah, you're right. Like a lot of these gamers who are casual want to become pro, their focus is mainly gameplay, getting the mechanic, which I like. I'm not saying that's wrong. Like that's a great focus to have, but you also got to have mental health training. You also got to have nutrition. It's a whole system, and it's like I said, like you're not going to see Tom Brady on the football field for 17 hours throwing a football.
Perfect
He'll
example,
get
man.
up. Well, he's, I know a lot of people have a lot of hate for Tom Brady, but the fact of the
But
matter is
every greatness is always gonna have haters.
he has a great mindset. My favorite quarterback of all time is Kurt Warner. Um, so I do a lot of reading from Kurt Warner. He's a great guy, great focus, great mental health supporter as well. But a lot of these kids are being influenced by the very negative comment or piece of advice of just keep playing. Or they also get told energy drinks, drink a lot of Red Bull. No, please don't. Like, especially if you are a teenager, there's a reason why most doctors are trying to get energy drinks only available for 16 and up, because a lot of kids under 16 are consuming them at an alarming rate. I'm a 280-pound 36-year-old man, and I have my one serving of 165 milligrams of caffeine. I'm good. I'm also ADHD, so you give me caffeine, I'm gonna have one of the other two reactions. I'm gonna get either really hyper, or I'm gonna calm right down. Usually I calm down. I just like it because it makes me more concentrated and more focused. But I'm not against energy drinks within moderation. Not a problem, as long as you have your H2O. Like water is the most accessible resource we have to help with our nutrition. Another good example I tell kids all the time is when their parents go to put fuel in the car, and they say, "Hey, son or daughter, can you do it for me?" And they say, "Yeah, I'll do that for you, no problem, parent." I'm like, would your father be okay if you put diesel into his gas tank? And they're like, "No, that would destroy the car." I'm like, 100% it would. I'm like, so you need to have the exact same response and the exact same urgency with your body. If you know drinking that 2 liter of Coke is going to damage you and affect your gameplay, don't do it. Consume your drinks with a purpose. Like, okay. Now another thing I like is Slurpees. I'm a huge fan of Slurpees. I love my Slurpees, especially with this plus 30 damn weather in Calgary now. It's like I need my Slurpees, but moderation. It's all about moderation.
It is all about moderation, because I'm not saying like energy drinks are like terrible, because hey, sometimes I mean it feels good to have something fizzy. Like I'm what's the word, guilty of having like Coke Zero when I'm playing games. I like to have the two in
How dare you
combination.
have psychological human behavior?
I know, right? So
I
it just
call it
it's so good.
I call it the Pepsi can opening experience, where you sit down after a long day of work and you hear that
Oh man, that's
that
how it is.
sound. That sound is so relaxing. So what you have to do is treat it as a reward, not as like an addiction where it's like I need it. No, be like, hey, you know what? Today was a good day. I drank my water. I had my good core healthy nutrition. I'm gonna get excited for that energy drink. Like you can ask my family, 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. every night is my game time. I am so excited for 7 p.m. I'm like, I get my energy drink, I get my snacks, which is cereal. Because I've always told people, my kids, I'm like, cereal is not a meal, guys. It's a snack. It's not going to fill you. So I just, you have to have that lifestyle where you have something to look forward to. And if you love that sound effect, earn it. Do what you got to do to make sure you're healthy. That way you can sit down and have no regrets. Because there's no, like, for me personally, I don't like that feeling of, oh, you know what, I had a Slurpee last night, but now I feel terrible. Then I had that can of pop. Oh, that was so bad. No, it's like I want to have it where, like, you know what, that was a good night. I earned that.
I
And it's
like that,
just,
man. Yeah, that's
you got
really
to earn it.
good.
You got to just create that mindset of treat it as a reward. And like
Yeah.
my kids, I am very, very protective with my kids' sugar intake, because we do have a lot of diabetes in my family. I'm like, sugar is, like, we need sugar. Like, we need to have it in our diet. It's something that, we need to have. But there's also the dangerous man-made sugar, the added sugar. So I was like, you got to find like I was surprised when I found out that kids are only allowed to have 25 milligrams of sugar a day.
Milligrams? I'm surprised.
Or grams, sorry, 25 grams. 25
Oh, 25
grams.
grams. I mean, there's 42 grams
And
alone in a cocaine. I
right.
mean, you say,
And
wow.
and doctors are saying that the average elementary level student has 11 to 21 grams of sugar in their breakfast alone.
Oh man.
It's crazy how much sugar. Because just think about it, I was like, you know what? I'm suspect of this as well. Like, if my son was hungry, I said, yeah, go grab a Pop Tart. Not even thinking like how much sugar is in one solid piece of Pop Tart. Then he would say, can I have a glass of juice? I'm like, yeah, have a glass of juice. Within just that Pop Tart and juice, it's almost 30, 40 grams of
That's
sugar.
it.
I'm like,
Yeah.
holy
Just like
cow.
that. There goes
And,
moderation out the window. Just like that.
exactly. So we need a lot more focus to be on nutrition, a lot more focus to be on mental health, a lot more focus to be on productive training and not just game more.
And I like that you bring that up because you start to see some of these streamers who play every day, right? You start watching them, and there are some times they'll have a bad sesh, like they're just salty and mean and angry.
Yep.
Like Ninja, I've seen, for example, like he'll become his old toxic self, like in a snap, just like that, and or even like some of this that I watch. So the thing is, like we were talking, the next topic is a bit about like burnout amongst esports athletes, and what we just touched upon is a big factor to it. If you're living off of caffeine and gaming, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna feel terrible. You're gonna wake up and you're just gonna go on your computer or pick up your controller because it's what you've been doing, feeling so crappy about yourself and just not really happy about it. I speak out of experience. I've done it too. And you just go through the motions, and then before you know it, you start to get debilitating mental health. And then after that, you feel like you know what happens with your relationship with gaming? It starts to become a toxic relationship where you feel like gaming has taken over your life, and then you have to drop it for you to do better. And then in some cases, yes, you will drop gaming, your life will be better. But then, like, but gaming was supposed to be your escape. It was supposed to be your fun. It was supposed to be your moment where you're sharing an experience with a community out there, and you're able to partake in this experience in this story. And now you've taken that away from yourself because you thought that you developed this unhealthy relationship with it, when all I had to do was what's the keyword? Moderation. And we didn't do that. So I feel like it's a big burnout where we're not taking care of ourselves. And I think you could definitely touch upon this. I know you've already brought up a lot of it, where it's not only just diet, but also mental health awareness to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And I also really love the fact that you stopped your son from playing 17 hours a day. Good. Because,
now,
yeah, go ahead.
To jump on that, there was a lot of days during COVID where I was like, you know what, go play for 8 hours. I'm like, just take a break, because I'm just like, what else is he supposed to do? Like another thing with gaming is socialization. A majority of his friends, he could not see his friends for a better part of a year while we had the COVID restrictions. And he's like, Dad, when I'm playing, I'm like, it's all about why you're gaming. Is it avoidance or is it distraction? Because if it's avoidance, that's not healthy. But if it's distraction, we all need distractions. Like, we all need times just to tap out and be like, you know what? I'm done with work. I'm done with tasks. I'm done with responsibilities. I need a distraction. And that's why TikTok is such a viral sensation right now, because it's a great distraction tool. But another thing I think we need to address about is how toxicity sells right now. A lot of kids love watching streamers that rage. There was this one gamer that went viral for breaking keyboards. Kids thought it was hilarious. My son thought it was hilarious watching this guy rage and slamming keyboards. I'm like, son, why is this entertaining to you? I'm like, you're watching someone become so unhealthy. Like, you should be feeling sorry for the person and not being like, this is awesome, this is so entertaining. So that's another thing that kids are struggling with, is they are being influenced by toxicity as a badge of honor, where it's like, I play games for 18 hours a day and that's why I'm better than them. And that's what they're being told. Like, I would ask my son, like, what advice have you been told in your little friends community? He's like, oh yeah, raging is normal. That's a problem. It's just like when people say, if you can't handle being trash talked or belittled, don't play games. When has that become a situation where the victim is told to adapt to the abuser? Like that is such a unhealthy mindset where it's like, well, if you can't handle being name called and abused, don't play games. Why are we creating such an environment where the abuser is given a pedestal and the victim is told to leave? That mindset drives me so mental when people are telling me, Dave, if you can't handle trash talking, don't play the game. Or what if the person who's trash talking has consequences for their action? And overall, that allows us to have a clean environment so the millions of people who are gaming can completely have a good time gaming. Like, for example, there was 1 month where Twitch had over 7 billion hours of watch time. It's crazy with how many people are gaming and streaming, but with that, how many people are just selling this narrative that being toxic is cool and being toxic is edgy. Or my other favorite thing is when people say, I can trash talk like the best. I'm great at trash talking. I'm like, it's so easy to trash talk on a microphone, but I promise you, I guarantee you, if you're face to face with the person, your energy would be on a different level. So that's a huge issue I find in gaming too, is where people are just so, I think it was Mike Tyson that said it best, where he said social media has allowed too many people to feel comfortable not being punched in the face. And I'm like, it sounds so violent, but it's the truth, where it's like, everyone is just so arrogant on social media. And it's like, guys, chill. I know gamers hate this, but it's a game. And every single gaming company wants you to have fun so you can invest more time and potentially money into the game. So when people are just trash talking, they don't understand how much they're affecting their character. Because I'm sorry, your gamer tag is right there. I can report you. So it's like you're affecting your playability. Like if you get banned and you go on social media and complain that, oh, I was banned from EA or I was banned from Fortnite, but you're not holding yourself accountable to why you were banned, that's a problem. Like I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's actually gamers who have shared videos of them being banned, bragging about it. And I'm just like,
Oh, I've
oh
seen
my
all the
goodness.
time.
I'm like, this is
Yeah.
so terrible. Like you're bragging
Like when you
about
get
being
blocked on Twitter,
banned.
by the way. Have you ever seen
Yeah,
that one?
I
You get blocked on
don't
Twitter
even
and it's like, why is that a badge of honor? You got blocked because you're being toxic to that person. Like, I don't
this
understand.
celebrity
I
blocked
hated
me.
that.
Okay, so that person chose to respect their boundary and blocked you, and now you're trying to make it about clout. I'm like, and that's the
It's
thing,
so
like
weird.
it's all about self-awareness and being honest with who you are, with your intent. It's like one of my favorite sayings I say is, be a pro with your intent. Like if you want to be a pro anything, be a pro with your intent. Be respectful, be mature, be civilized. When you're playing a Madden game and you're getting your rear end smoked, you have two ways to respond to it. You can attack the person for being better than you or play better than you, or say, you know what, man, that was a great experience. Even though I lost, it was still fun. Like I remember one of the guys I gave praise to, he beat me pretty bad. it was a bad game, but I tagged him in a tweet saying, you know what, you beat me, but you did it with honor and respect, and I respect you so much for that, because he didn't trash talk me. He didn't share video of my terrible plays and mock me. He was like, listen, man, that was a great game. I had a lot of fun. And I'm like, that's what it's all about. There's still respect in winning and losing. And like I told my son, I'm like, let's say you become the Fortnite world champ and you are arrogant, you're toxic. I'm like, did you really win? I'm like, no, I don't think you did. And he's like, oh yeah, but I won $3 million. I won a trophy. I'm like, yeah, but you lost a lot of respect. And I'm like, respect means more to me than any cash value prize. And I'm trying to help kids develop that mindset of money can be spent and replaced, but respect is so hard to get back. Like it's hard to get back when
Hmm.
you lose it. It's so hard.
I agree with you on that big time. It reminds me of in boxing, there was like, Floyd Mayweather, greatest, amazing boxer, undefeated. Obviously, he trash talks, but he backs it up, unfortunately. But you see, he sells so well, right? Because he's toxic, because he trash talks. Something like Canelo
Conor McGregor.
Alvarez is Yeah, or yeah, Conor McGregor as well sells a lot, being toxic and everything. But then let's say for boxing, there was this one boxer, super humble, super quiet, Canelo. He Mexican boxer, was undefeated for a long time, and even till now, he still doesn't have like amazing sales like Floyd Mayweather does, despite being a phenomenal boxer, because he just doesn't trash talk. He is very just to himself, but he is so respected. That's the thing. He's very well respected and always commended for how much like honor and dignity he has with towards his opponents. Even after a fight, he'll be like, "Man, that was phenomenal. It was a great fight. Thank you so much for the great experience." Things like that. He'll even say that, "Oh, I'm looking forward to fighting this person. It's not like I can't wait to go and tear off his face," all that kind of stuff, right? And it's great to see that, because when you see more of those things, then you start to realize, okay, awesome, I want to be more like him. But unfortunately, like you just mentioned, that toxicity is what sells. Seeing the ragers, with the keyboards, or I forgot his name recently, but he's always like yelling at clips when he's playing Fall Guys and stuff. Like all these things, like it's always toxicity that gets the viral clips, or it gets the sales. And then what does that do? Kids are watching this, so they think, I gotta be like that. I gotta be loud and toxic like that, and I'll get somewhere. But then, like we were talking about that age 25 burnout limit, you can't be yelling like that on a daily basis around that age. You give out. If that's what's required, you start to realize this isn't for me. And there you go. And you move on. And then once again, esports athletes can't get past 25. It's difficult.
That's
So
why
I was gonna, you go ahead.
That's why I think esports, even though it's going so well right now with attendance, I feel like eventually we're going to start losing a lot of esports players because of the toxicity. Because they're going to be like, you know what, is this really worth it? Another example with esports is you have a borrowed time limit on an esports organization. As soon as you go onto a team, and let's say you have a bad few games, they'll replace you, because they're just trying to find the best players to win games and win championships. They're not really focused on your mental health. They're not really focused on loyalty. They're focused on, hey, can you win a game? We'll sign you. Okay, you're not doing good. We're going to replace you and kick you to the curb. So there's a lot of pressure there. It's like I call it similar to academic pressure, where you got to do good in school from parents. You got to do good and show off to get to college. It's the same thing with esports. You got to perform at a consistent level, or you will be replaced. And that is a very stressful mindset to have, where it's like, oh my God, we were in the finals. I didn't perform well. Am I now cut? Now what do I do? And that's the reason why I think 25 is the limit, is because it's we can praise all we want about esports being an amazing experience, being inclusive, but there is still a dark side to it. And that dark side, I think, is going to be the reason why we're eventually going to hit a situation where esports athletes become more self-aware, and they're like, you know what, this is not fun for me no more. Like,
it's like I deserve
just recently, one of the greatest Madden players retired, because he's like, I want to do more things. I want to have more fun and branch out. And he's like, it's really toxic lately nowadays. Like, it's the pressure, the toxicity. And it's this mindset of, you can't fail, otherwise you're not the greatest. Or like, you can have let's say you have a great season in Madden, but then you get in the playoffs and you lose one game. Everyone forgets that you had an undefeated season. They just now focus on that one playoff game you lost, and now you're trash, you're terrible. And you're just like, what the heck, man?
Washed.
Like, I went undefeated, and then I lost the playoff. Now I'm trash. And it's just like, it's all about self-awareness. You have to be honest with yourself and question, like, do I want to deal with this for an entirety of a career? And it's great to see mental health being part of the conversation, like with the game organization Misfits. They were the first ones that really got well known for hiring mental coaches. But I think it's also going to be a problem for esports organizations, because with all the awareness of mental health coming in, a lot of these players will be like, okay, wow, this is great information. However, now I'm starting to think, like, do I really want to deal with this pressure, this toxicity? So even with mental health awareness, there comes the risk of a lot of players saying, you know what, this is not for me no more. So it's kind of a good and a bad situation for the gaming industry, because another thing we don't talk about a lot, though, is developers. There's so many developers right now that get death threats on Twitter. So many developers that make games that are getting death threats, and being called lazy. And it's just like, we have become such an entitled species that when you place someone's health after your opinions, it's like, wow, like this is not healthy. So gaming,
Yeah, you
as much
sunk
fun
low.
as it is yeah, there's a dark side to gaming and esports, and I feel it's really important that we talk about that and we bring it to reality so these kids understand. It's like when I am coaching football, there's some kids that are like, I want to go NFL, and I say, you know what, beautiful, however, here's the reality of statistically getting into the NFL. Okay, it's really hard. Like it's you have 1 million players in the USA at the minor level. Of that 1 million, maybe 10% go to college. Of that 10% to go to college, only 1% will go to the NFL. So you can understand, like, getting in the NFL is extremely challenging. And then I have to be honest with them as their coach. I had to be like, this is the, I'm like, I'm not saying you're not going to do it. I'm just saying this is the challenge to get there. And you need to have the self-awareness of whether or not you want to commit to that grind and that potentially mentally health just problematic situation where I'm like, you got to have the passion for it. And I feel like a lot of gamers now, they have the passion for being a champion, but not necessarily for the journey it's going to take to get there. And that's why a lot of them, you know,
Alright.
maybe this may be the, you know, not the way they say it, but they drop off. They say, you know what, I'm done. It's because they were chasing the wrong thing. They weren't chasing passion. It's all about passion. And that's why Madden 23 comes out next month, and I'm kind of questionable. I'm like, am I going to do it professionally? Am I going to do it casually? Am I going to do it just for content? I don't know yet. It all depends on the community, and community is everything. And, you know, you and I both
Almost like
being,
a
so that's what, you know, just self-awareness. I was all like, I'm going to go and play competitively. I did it with Madden, and I was like, wow, I didn't expect it to be that toxic. And it's like, do I really want to invest in that journey with everything else I'm doing with NFL Flag and Concussion Legacy Foundation, Unsinkable, all the other stuff that I'm doing? I'm like, do I really want to take the chance of investing all that mental health draining possibility? So I was like, you know what, when Madden 23 comes out, because there's a lot of content you can create with Madden. Like, you can do videos of your favorite team. You can do videos of your Madden Ultimate Team. Like, for example, me with my OCD, well, my favorite thing to do with Madden Ultimate Team is creating an authentic Rams legacy team. As you can see behind me, I'm a huge LA Rams fan. I've been a Rams fan since 1999. I love the Rams. So what I do on Madden is I get, because the way the Madden Ultimate Team works is you get cards and you open those cards and you can apply them to your team. So I look for Rams. Like, any Rams player, I'll take them on my team. And I'm like, you know what? That's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that. There's no competitiveness to it. There's no toxicity. But I was like, but I do miss being competitive. But now that I'm coaching NFL Flag, that may be my actual source now of being competitive again and helping these kids and helping them, like, understand teamwork and discipline and self-love and so much more, that I'm going to help them with mental health and, you know, mental rehearsal. So when it comes to esports, you got to make sure you have a clear, precise plan of why you're doing it. Is it
So
just because
then,
you want
so
to
this
win
is the
money?
thing though. Hold on. So here's the thing, right? So in the next portion, since you're going to touch upon it, what are some therapy options or resources that you feel esports athletes need to be
Oh,
healthier? Yeah, I know you know a bunch,
there's
so go ahead.
so
Take it
much.
away.
There's so much, and it's not necessarily resources, but people. There's a organization called Adamus Gaming. They are a group of therapists, psychologists, doctors. They branch out here in Canada. They just signed a contract with TSM. So, like, they're making great moves in esports. They help you with nutrition. They help you with sleep. They help you with mental health. They help you with depression. Like, they help you with everything in that area. There's also 1HP, which is another great group of people who are doctors and psychologists and physiotherapists. Fit Gamer, FITGMR. It's an app. Check that out. That gives you all the resources on one app. You put your weight in, you put your goals in, you put your it's even down to how much intensity you were at playing games when you were gaming. Like, were you at 8% intensity? Did you feel like you were only at 40? And it keeps track of all of your day-to-day progress, and then it gives you points. And that's the incentive, right? The thing is, when it comes to programs and resources, there has to be an incentive that helps the kids and adults be like, why do I want to do this? Oh, as long as to feel good? I need more than that. So it's like they give you, there's also another thing called Hero Trainer, which is an app where you gain points for working out and walking. And the more points you get, you can actually cash in for actual gift cards to EB Games and all these other gaming platforms. You can get gift cards to PlayStation, gift cards to Xbox for, like, let's say you get 4,500 points, you can get $10 off PlayStation gift card. And I'm like, that's great. You give the incentive, but I'm going to name drop some people here for everyone to go check out. Dr. Respawn, Jordan Tsai, TSAI. He works with Secret Lab chairs. He's actually part of the committee that helps build their chairs to make them more, what's the word? More reliable and ergonomic for gamers. Okay. So he's a great person to follow. He also streams on Twitch. Hector Melendez, great guy. I've interviewed him on my previous podcast called Healthy Gamer or Gamer Health. Lachlan Parker. But if you want to find a list of people, Adamus Gaming, 1HP, Secret Lab has great information as well and resources. Dr. Rachel Cowart is a psychologist and research director, heavily into gaming, an amazing source of information. But there's so much resources out there. Safe in Our World is an organization that focuses on healthy gaming. Gamers Outreach are also a great organization where they take gaming consoles to the hospitals and play games with kids. So much resources out there. I can go on and on with names, but the good thing is there's endless resources out there. Endless.
That's amazing.
My DMs are also open.
Like, I didn't know about that, right?
Yep. They're everywhere.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, honestly, I would recommend anyone who comes across this, please DM him. Like, he knows the list, so that's great. All right. So then, so since you know all of this, this is the last question. You could try to encompass all of it.
Okay.
What do you think is in the future for esports? Paint us a picture.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be bigger than traditional sports. It's already being projected to hit over $200 billion a year by 2025. So they're projecting that it's going to be more financially successful than all professional sports. They're projecting a lot more involvement from brands. Like Pizza Hut is now in the gaming. Pizza Hut Gaming. A lot of brands are getting into gaming because they realize, holy cow, it is so popular. A lot of brands are reaching out to gamers for content creation. So it's going to be a great opportunity for content creators to have more availability with brands to be hired to do content creation for. Twitch is going to keep growing. YouTube gaming is going to keep growing. For example, there was a gamer, I can't remember his name, MMG is his initials, but he plays Madden and creates content for Madden. He was actually invited to the NFL draft to announce a draft for the Detroit Lions. So that shows you just how big gaming is getting. Dr. Disrespect was invited to do a draft announcement. So it's like Tim the Tatman is the first ever gamer to appear on a Sports Illustrated cover. So it's going to be massive.
He was?
Yeah, he was on Sports Illustrated.
That. I gotta look at that.
So it's like,
oh my God.
It's going to be huge.
All right, so we have reached the end of our esports podcast, mental health and esports. I gotta say, oh man, it was an awesome topic. I love that we were able to have more than 35 or 40 minutes to be able to dive into this topic. And I feel like I learned so much from you already. That's just me, one person. I can't imagine all the other esport athletes out there get to hear this and really learn from you. So before we close off, once again, just a big shout out to TD Bank for sponsoring our IG Lives and podcasts here at YouthSpeak Canada. Canada. My name is Christian. I was your host for today, but I really want you all to make sure to follow whatever Boddy's going to tell you to follow him at. Please go ahead and hit that follow button everywhere you can. Go ahead, take it away. Let us know where to find you.
I am legit everywhere. Twitter, Coach Boddy, Coach_BODDY. Instagram, Coach Boddy. TikTok, Coach Boddy. On those social media platforms, it's going to be all football, flag football, Madden, and you never know. I'm a very open book with what I share about. A lot of mental health, a lot of concussion awareness, and just a mixture of content. LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. A lot of my connections are made on LinkedIn. Facebook, I'm not really active on Facebook. My top three though are Twitch, TikTok, and Twitter. Those are the three I'm the most active on because I find a lot of my demographic is in those apps the most. Snapchat, I refuse to use. I've tried Snapchat. I can't get into it. Can't do it. But yeah, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok is you'll find me active there consistently. That's actually where we connected, was on Instagram.
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth-led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca, where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
YouthSpeak Performance Charity. Speak, inspire, change.